have no fear, Willie's here. Hi everyone. So today we're going to look at understanding questions and how to put things in your own words, which can be quite tricky sometimes, and it is okay to struggle at these things to start with. But in this video I'm going to give you different strategies that you can use that will help you try to work out what certain things mean and what words are meaning from looking at the context, and there's clues all around the words as well that will help you. So that's what this video is going to look at. Hope you find it useful. So what's an understanding question anyway? Well, an understanding question tests your understanding of the passage and basically what the passage is about. Have I got it? You need to read and understand the writer's main idea and what their main argument is, like what was the purpose, why have they written this piece of writing, and then that's why basically you can't just lift words from the passage here and there, because if you're just quoting from the passage, that's not going to show the marker or anybody else that you've understood what it is, because you're just being like a parrot, just repeating what is being said. Got lucky, got lucky. So how do you answer an understanding question? Well, you have to read the question carefully first, and then highlight the keyword or the keywords of the question that tell you what you're looking for and what you're being asked to do. Then, like I've said in the video all about highlighting, if you haven't seen it, you should watch it. Read the right section of the passage. So at National 5 and higher, the question will tell you what section to look at and what line numbers to be looking at. I would always say to put a wee line round it or stars round that passage, that section only, so that you never look elsewhere, because marks are lost every year in the exam for doing silly things like answering somewhere else. And then once you think that you found the answer, highlight or underline it, and then that's what you're focusing on to try and put it in your own way. So how do you put something into your own words? Well, once you've highlighted that section of the sentence, then you basically need to look at the phrase and think, what does that actually mean? You've not to lift any of the key words, but you are allowed to use other words in that sentence, things like the and stuff like that. So it's the key words that you've got to rephrase, and you won't get any marks if you've just lifted them. Don't do that thing where you think, oh, I've got to try and think of a word for every word. Sometimes it's not going to be as easy as that, and it won't make sense if you do it that way. So just look at the whole phrase and then try and think, what is the writer meaning from that whole thing. Talking of robots, something else you could do is that if you can't think of an alternative word, then you could say something that means the opposite. For example, if the passage said, the lady was kind and generous, and you were sitting going, oh, I can't think of another word for that, or either of those, then you could say, the lady wasn't cruel or mean with money. Another tip is that you can try and break the word down into smaller words to see if that will help you work out what it means. So you could look at the base word, the root word, what is that main word, or the prefix, which is the bit at the front, or the suffix, which is anything that comes at the end of it that's been added on. For example, discrimination. So the word dis means not, or the opposite of, or reverse. Crimin is verdict, or a judicial decision, or a judgment, and the tion at the end, the shin, indicates that the word is a noun, so you can break it down into smaller parts. So let's have a wee shot at breaking down a word. So say the article said, or the passage said, the archaeologists were excited about their recent find in the subterranean desert. They used an extensive amount of tools to try and discover the latest Roman swords. So firstly, let's see if we can break down that word to see if there's any bits that you do recognise. So the prefix, sub, just have a wee think for a minute. What other words do you know that start with sub? And just pause the video here. So you might have thought about the word subway or submarine. So what's a subway? A subway is an underground passage, and a submarine is a ship that goes underwater. So therefore, if you're thinking about it, the word sub must mean under. We all live in a yellow submarine. A what? A yellow submarine. A what? A yellow submarine. Right, is there any other part of the word that you might know? I think I've heard of the word terrain. Has that got something to do with the word earth or ground or something, the word terrain? Now let's put it together. Put it together and what have we got? Bibbidi bobbidi boo. So the meaning of subterranean is, so once you've broken it down, let's work it out. Sub means under, terrain is something to do with ground, shove it together, underground or under the earth. However, in the passage it also talked about archaeologists, that are people who study below the earth, and it also mentioned tools, which is obviously the suggestion that they're investigating something or maybe digging it up. So well done if you got it right. And the crowd goes wild. Woo! 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 Another strategy you could try is about reading the context to try and help you. So look at the sentence or the sentences around the word or the phrase that you've highlighted, and then you will come across words that you've never seen, especially at higher. Reading around about it will help you, so you can think about another word which would fit in there and replace that word, and that will give you a clue to what it means as well. Where are they? Where are they? There they are. So the close reading is all about being observant. It's never a good idea to fall asleep in an exam. Good advice. So look for clues around about that word or the phrase that you're trying to put into your own words. Look for a definition or an explanation within the sentence itself that word's in. For example, if we ever think about the word discrimination, what does it mean? So say the passage said, discrimination or unfairly targeting one or more groups by those who perceive themselves to be superior can cause distress. So the phrase that's underlined, basically the unfairly targeting one or more groups, is a big clue to what the word discrimination actually means. Right, now it's your turn. So this is about looking for clues. So say this is in the passage. Whilst planning the party, Amy was prudent with the guest list, acting with great caution and care not to invite anyone she wouldn't want to jump with on a bouncy castle. My advice might be actually to invite people that you don't like, and then you could jump on top of them. Accidentally, on purpose, of course. Right, so let's think about the word prudent. So clues that help you work out what prudent means. So the passage said, whilst planning the party, Amy was prudent with the guest list, acting with great caution and care not to invite anyone she wouldn't want to jump with on a bouncy castle. So ask, what else does that sentence go on to say that gives us a wee clue about what prudent means? So who is in the passage? Who is it talking about? Amy. So Amy's being prudent. And what is she being prudent with? The guest list. How else is her behaviour being described? Well, it says that she's acting with great care and caution. Now you can have a wee pause of the video to try and work out what prudent means then, based on what we've just read. So what's the definition of prudent? It means to act with great caution and care, like it said in the passage. So this is just a wee example of how in close reading you can find the definition from the context and the information around it. So it's all about paying attention to that sentence and the sentences around it, playing detective, sniffing out things that are there to help you, like a sniffer dog, Sherlock Holmes. Woof, woof. Another thing you can do is to look for other words there that will help you find out the definition. There may be synonyms. Now when I say synonyms, I don't mean cinnamon, that's what you sprinkle on your apple pie. A synonym is a word that means the same thing. So you could look for those in the sentence and that'll give you another clue to what the word means. An example, when people know they are vulnerable or defenceless, they tend to protect themselves to avoid harm. So if you were trying to work out what vulnerable meant, then the word defenceless is right beside it. That could mean the same thing, especially if there's an or maybe even an and right beside that word, and that's giving you a clue to what it means. Also, the writer might have given you examples to help. So when a writer uses a word that they think you might not know, they might offer an example to help you work out what it means. So vulnerable people, such as young children, the elderly and disabled people, have protections under certain laws. Here, the writer has given some examples of vulnerable groups, which could help you work out that word means to be exposed to harm or in need of protection. Ready? It's your turn! So use the examples here to help you work out what this word means. Stuart procrastinated to avoid his homework all day, playing video games, watching TV, and even helping his mum with the food shopping. So in the passage, it said that Stuart spent his time watching TV, playing video games, going food shopping. These are all forms of procrastination, so these are examples the writer's put in. So if Stuart is meant to be doing his homework, but is doing these other things instead, now you can have a wee pause of the video to try and work out what to procrastinate means. So were you right? Well done if you were. Woo, woo, woo! So from the examples, we should have worked out that to procrastinate means to delay, postpone, or put something off. So I procrastinate when it's all about going on a diet. I like to put that off, even though I know it should be. I should be on one. We could see this because Stuart would do anything rather than do his homework, which is what he should be doing, so those examples gave us that clue and told us how to work it out. So how much do I need to write, Mrs. Shakespeare? I hear you ask. Well, that really depends on the number of marks, which I talk about in the other video. You just need to pay as much attention to the number of marks as to that question. So for an understanding question, if it's a 5-mark question, for example, you need to write 5 different things. And as I was saying in the other video as well, you need to use bullet points because A, it lets you see that you've written enough really easily, and B, it helps the marker mark it. It makes it easier for them. And you want to make them your friend, because the more you write, obviously the harder it is for them to mark. If it's short and concise, that's even better. Hopefully you found that video useful on how to use your own words, not mine. And if you have enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. If I was using different words for that, I would say sign up, enroll, join. And we'll see you next time for the next set of sessions.